So I got to ask then, Chris being a photo guy and Jordan being a video guy, what do you guys? What cameras do you guys are you using primarily these days? What is your go-to camera? I assume that they're different.
Yeah, it's funny. For me, I mean, Jordan's obviously going to give his answer. For me, one of the strange things about doing this job, and I think a lot of people will come up with it, oh, it sounds amazing. You get to try a new camera every week, right? You're always using different lenses and stuff. Like, what an amazing job. And it is. I'm not saying it's not. But actually, as a photographer, that's actually quite challenging. It's quite difficult, as you know, right? I mean, you do these things, right, Chris? Like, you're trying new gear all the time. And I envy other photographers who just get to buy gear, use it, get good with it, get familiar with it. They know their workflow, they know the color. Whereas for us, it's like a restart every week. So people always ask, well, what camera do you use? And I'm like, I don't even have my own cameras anymore for photography, because if I'm shooting on someone else's gear, and it's a new piece of gear every week. And I hate 35 millimeter lenses personally, but now I'm shooting, 3 weeks of 35 millimeter lenses.
Nothing but 35 mil, yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people appreciate that. It's like, what was great about being a photographer just for yourself is, if you didn't feel like shooting, you don't shoot. If you want to shoot this lens, you shoot this lens. If you want to try this technique, try this technique. Whereas for us, it's really dictated by the schedule.
Yeah.
I shoot what I have to shoot for the show. And that's not always what I am in the mood to shoot, if that makes sense.
Unless it's a Panasonic GM5 is like the one camera that you've consistently held on to.
You have camera. I've never touched them, honestly, for a long time. It really is now just whatever camera shows up at the door in a box. That's my favorite camera for, 5 days. And then I hate it.
Yeah, until it lets you down, and then you're on to the next camera.
Yeah, and they always do. They always let you down in the end.
For me, I mean, most of the time we don't receive 2 copies of the camera. If we do, I will also shoot our show on the same camera that we're reviewing. It doesn't happen very often, so it made sense for us to have a staple camera. So I've been using a Panasonic GH5, GH5S combination now since the switch, and a little bit back in the camera store days. It's just a great workhorse. I trust it. The image is more than flexible enough for what we're doing. But I am testing an S1H right now, and
he loves it.
And I've been working on this review now for about a month and a half, because I don't want to send the camera back. Also, because
don't finish the review. You want to get a camera.
Yeah.
If we had to pick a consistent piece of gear, it would be Panasonic cameras. I use GH5 as well for my video work on the side, and it's just such a good camera. So there you go. That would be our mainstay, Panasonic GH5, and now you're really liking the S1H.
Yeah, it's been nice, but I really am struggling with the weight. That was one thing that
use the exercise.
I used to run around with an FS7 and stuff like that, and I've become frail. I can't do it anymore. I want a little GH back in there, but
it is a big.
They've been great workhorse cameras, and for the amount of that we shoot, we had barely any issues with those technically. So they do seem to be real workhorse cameras. Yeah.
So Jordan, you said that you're doing some DP work. You're using the S1H and other Panasonic cameras for that as well, or are these like you're a hired gun and you use what camera is on set?
Yeah, we generally use larger cameras. So the movie that's hitting the festival circuit right now and is coming to America shortly, A Walk Down to Water by director Levi Hallwell. That one the A-cam was a Red Dragon 6K. Which we used for the majority of it, but some of the smaller areas that we didn't want to drag in the big camera, and especially there's a sequence that was shot in Denmark. For that, it was on the GH5S, and I defy anyone to tell me which was shot on the Dragon 6K and which was on the GH5S.
I know which one. So I can tell you.
He was on BTS for one day, so he knows all the secrets. He saw it all going down. But at the end of it, talking to the director, it was like, we did, using that big Red Dragon really did slow us down a lot of the time, and it only saved us in a couple of very minor shots. So I do think we're getting closer and closer to the point where, a professional camera can become more of a hindrance than an asset. If I could do it again, I probably would have done like a C200 or even just gone with like a GH5S or an S1H. It's a beautiful picture coming off of those.
I feel like I've made that argument recently.
Yeah, C200's. Well, that's what Mike's being shot on right now. That's my top camera to use, just because it's the form factor and everything just makes shooting video so much easier.
Or it stays on a tripod, though.
But you wouldn't want to probably be shooting yourself on a Alexa or a Red right now. Or Red, you know? Yeah.
So if you had your choice of what camera to shoot, video with all the time, it sounds like it's still going to be the Panasonic then, right? Like you wouldn't
your dream camera?
Would you do the Evo?
I mean, it really is case by case. If I had a big crew, then yeah, of course, I'd love to work with big cinema cameras where the back end isn't going to be a concern. But even when I'm working with the crew, they're small productions, and yeah, shooting even compressed RAW did certainly slow us down a little bit. So for the majority of the projects that I'm shooting, something like C200 and Evo 1, or even that S1H, GH5, those would be totally sufficient now. When I'm filmmaking, we don't need that much dynamic range and stuff because we're lighting it. When I need a camera with amazing dynamic, when I need an Alexa is when I'm shooting Chris in a snowy Alberta day, with lights bouncing all over the place. That's when I need an Alexa. We need an Alexa.
No, we don't.
There's always a good excuse to have an Alexa. Right?
Well, DP Review is owned by Amazon, right? And I'm pretty sure they have deep pockets. I feel like they should be able to get you one.
You'd be shocked how rarely they're just hurling.
Yeah, there's a couple parent groups in between there. It's trickled down. We don't get any of that stuff. And we're the Canadian branch. It's customs is terrible. No, we don't get any of that.
I don't think they know that
no.
work for me.
Yeah, and all joking aside, one of the things I think that was unique about our show is that it was just the two of us, which from a logistical standpoint, presents challenges, and you build a certain way of working with that. And it's monopods more than it is sticks, and it's natural light more than it is lit. And so working light and working small was really a big part of it. That's why we wanted to get rid of the FSs and and move to the GHs, because it really was that sort of more run and gun capable but still good dynamic range setup. And to this day, the S1H makes sense, although again, as Jordan said, it's a little heavier than what we're normally using.
Broken.
Yeah, his wrist is all floppy, and even if we had access to Red Dragons, it would make no sense. Even if we had access to Alexas, it would make no sense. So it's going to be GH5 for life.
There was one.
You got to get that tattooed on your face.
Yeah.
Right here.
In reverse.
There was one interesting experiment we did a while back where we actually had two people helping us out on a shoot, and we shot it on a big Sony F5.
Yeah.
So the light was controlled. We even had booms on some of them. And the content didn't change at all. You were actually quite critical of the camera you were talking about that week. But in the feedback, there was so much talk of like, oh, this looks like commercial sponsored video. Like, are you guys selling out now? Even though it was a fairly negative review of it, people just associated that higher production value with being less legitimate for some reason. And it's a weird thing that has happened, I think, just with that YouTube culture.
Yeah, I'm convinced,
totally
with the exception of actual videographic people, like, the majority of users don't want or appreciate really high-end production in a lot of things. Like you say, it looks produced, it looks different. So, I don't know. There's something to be said for webcam in a dark office.
Yeah, I was going to say. Follow that through, and I guess your next video you should shoot on your smartphones. I guess, right?
Oh yeah, and we are honestly doing more and more of that, right? Although that video we shot on the Apple,
I was pretty disappointed.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah.
Well, it looked horrible.
Yeah. We do use, smartphones for insert shots and stuff like that. Yeah. But, generally speaking, we found, that GH5 is a nice mid-range where it gives me a little room to play with the image, but it's not too glossy. Yeah.